We are law students from National Law School, Bangalore, and we decided to make a podcast or something. So this podcast is called Radio.
You made the
Yes,
podcast.
me.
I'm the guest.
Yeah, he's the guest.
And there'll be future episodes as well
Yes.
with other top law students,
Top
as
law
invited by Mr. Krishnan.
Top law students.
He's the judge, jury, and executioner of that.
Whoever wants, really. So, generally, I wanted to cover legal topics in this podcast, but since I'm just starting and I have no clue, no clue what I'm doing, this is going to be dedicated to discussing what law school is like. So we are penultimate penultimate year law students, and so there's this widely known article by Corinne Cooper called "Letter to a Young Law Students," which basically addresses what a first-year law student is going to expect during their time at law school. So we thought we would go through some parts of that article and review or maybe just give our thoughts in it, because that's an American article, and at NLS things have been very different for many of us. So so initially, what was it like starting off at National Law School?
We started off from the comfort of our homes.
Oh.
So our batch in particular, the COVID generation, may not be the best place to give an answer to that. But law for us, I suppose, at that time was like a hobby, because we spent 2 hours a day on it, in class, on Zoom, and we spent the rest of the day doing whatever we want. So the idea of defining yourself as a law student, the idea of a letter to a law student itself was untrue for us, because when we were at home, when we were away from everyone else, when we were just doing whatever we wanted while logging on to Zoom, we were not law students yet. We would not define ourselves as law students in any capacity, because law student is a definitive term. It's something which shows some aspects of your personality. And I think that when we first came to campus, by when we were already in our second year, when we first came to campus, none of us, as we came to campus, were law students. None of us had the traits of a law student, which you might generalize and expect. So I don't think we are the best placed people to comment on what the life of a law student would be like in their first year, or what they should expect.
You just mentioned something about being like a law student, right? What does that mean?
A law student would be someone who considers themselves a law student as one of their primary characteristics.
That's a little extreme, no?
In your first year, would you consider yourself a law student?
I don't know.
When you meet someone on the street, would you define yourself as a law student?
Maybe. Perhaps. I would say that, I study law if I meet someone. If my relatives ask me.
I mean, if my relatives ask me what I study, I wouldn't say computer engineering either. But would you use the phrase law student in defining yourself, say, for a Tinder bio?
I don't use dating apps, so no. Maybe not.
Example, yeah, maybe not. Or would someone you know and who knows your personality define you as a law student in your first year? Using the word law student.
Probably after I think maybe you had pictures of you all around Guwahati, right? So Krishanu is from Guwahati, and he probably had pictures of him from various coaching institutes around the country.
Funnily enough, after I got in, one of the coaching institutions sent a message to almost every student with my rank and name, and I got so many people texting me on the day.
Wow.
It was almost at the same time as I found out myself, which is insane.
So no one ever texted me, and my pictures were on no posters, and no one texted me.
You're not from Guwahati, Assam, the famous, illustrious place which creates thousands of engineers, lawyers, and doctors.
Right. So what were the classes like when you first started? You mentioned they were 2 hours long, but I don't remember them being 2 hours long. I think per class was 2 hours long, but it took the entire day, and I was very exhausted.
So a diligent person like you, Krishna, may have sat through the classes for
No,
all
I
10
didn't
hours.
sit through the classes. I would sleep during political science class, for example. That's just one thing I remember.
I had Zoom going on one laptop and I was playing games on another. So that's how classes went for me. It wasn't serious then. I wouldn't describe myself as a law student. I didn't have any what Fuller might call fidelity towards the law.
Oh,
I had no
right.
interest in the law. I was there because circumstances worked out that way. I just wanted to try it out.
Right.
And it wasn't too interesting. And when things are not interesting, I'm not someone who puts in effort.
Right. So this was in Zoom. So what was fitting in like at law school?
In person, when we came over,
In person or in Zoom? For like, we fit in first over Zoom and then in person.
the
Those were
first
two different
people I
things.
talked to in college on a personal level was actually from a right wing group I was a part of here. Full disclosure, for the first time ever, someone created a right winger group and thought I was one. Maybe I am, but thought I was one and added me to that. And the name of that group was Jai Shri Ram. Not outing any of the other members, but that's how I first started talking to people. I was
Interesting.
one of my first friends in college was a very illustrious member from our batch, who I'm sure will be on this podcast later on. Stay
Oh,
tuned, no spoilers.
right. Right. For me, fitting in was very different. I was very quiet in school, so I wanted to change that at law school. So I would participate in class a lot, and but I never really tried very hard to fit in. I remember on my I was just I don't know. People thought I was smart at the time because I kept talking in class, but even if my contributions weren't very good at the time, uh, fitting in, I don't know what to say about that because I never really tried actively at least.
That's the same for me, honestly. When we first had online classes, I had already judged everyone as more or less either being very boring
Oh,
or people were or characteristic stereotypes versions of whom I had already interacted with in the past.
oh,
So as such, there was no incentive for me to reach out and find new interesting people because that's frankly what drives me. I like interesting things, interesting situations, and interesting people, positive or negative. And at that time, I was under the wrong impression that this is not what our batchmates were like. So I didn't put in the effort into socializing.
interesting. So, what were these challenges that you faced when you first entered law school?
Entered physically again.
Sure, why don't we move from the Zoom era then?
Challenges when we first entered physically. I guess adjusting to hostel life.
Oh,
Not in the sense that living with friends before I've done that. In the sense that it's just so fucking ghetto.
okay.
The first day I came in, there was a pile of shit on the toilet seat.
Oh,
It,
wow.
that was a culture shock for sure. Um, but over time it grew on me. And by over time I don't
Right,
mean
of course.
like over years.
Over
By
weeks.
like a few weeks, I was very fond of this place. Frankly, on I'd already busted my liver twice by the time our first trimester here ended. A trimester is 3 months here. By the time our first
Yeah, the
trimester here ended, I
trimester system.
blacked out twice, and I was in having fun here. You don't need to fit in. You don't need to find your group, or you don't need to have any objectives or goals when you enter law school or enter any place, frankly, because this is just a very ordinary place filled with some extraordinary people, some very ordinary people, and some suboptimal people.
Oh,
So
that's
just
interesting.
treat it like some any other place with a greater quality of in the people you would meet than an ordinary place.
Right. Right. So for me, hostel life was. I had never been in a hostel before. I'd never lived outside my house, but living in the hostel was very seamless for me. It wasn't much of a big issue. So I don't. I never had the same experiences as Krishanu. So moving on. So how were the courses initially taught at law school? Were there any fundamental courses which changed the way you think, uh, or was every course the same?
Every course certainly wasn't the same. There were great differences between the courses. I wouldn't say someone like Chandra teaching what she teaches would have a lot would be a lot different than
Oh,
some other professor, no names taken here,
right.
some other professor who would say try to communicate their message. So some professors were definitely more effective
Oh,
in communicating ideas. They may have changed how I think in certain ways. The thing is, you can never pinpoint things which change your mindset to one specific thing.
right, definitely.
It's such a gradual process that you don't notice it over time. There have been people in law school who've changed the way I think, surprisingly. But in classes, if it has happened, I'm not sure if it has. It's happened gradually. There have been extremely remarkable professors, though.
Right.
That has to be said.
Yeah.
Some of our professors are straight up exceptional.
Right, it's nice that you're so acutely aware of these things. I made these questions, but I wouldn't be able to answer them myself. I would just zone out. So, yeah, I mean, what did you think of legal methods? Do you think that laid the foundation for your legal knowledge? If I can say something like that.
I have one takeaway from legal methods, but I suppose I'm not allowed to say that.
Okay, okay, yeah.
He really was good.
Yeah, so this is interesting sentence in uh, the letter to a young law student, and it goes like this: Your most important educational experience in law school will be with other students. You will learn more from them than from your teachers. Relationships forged in law school are like those forged in war. What you share with these people is unlike any experience you've ever had before. So evaluate this, break it down and evaluate it.
You sure I'm the right person to ask that question?
Yeah, I think it's very valuable to ask you specifically this question.
I think law school has some very interesting people.
Right.
And it has some people who have definitely changed the way I think. Who've changed some fundamental beliefs not beliefs, some fundamental preconceptions I've had. So that certainly is true. About relationships forged in law school, don't be too certain of them. I'm speaking not simply I'm speaking not simply in terms of bonds shared. Bonds are meaningless.
Oh.
They come and they go.
Right.
But don't lay yourself bare.
What does that mean?
If you want somebody to be a crutch for you, you won't find that person here. It's not war. In war, there's this one fundamental thing is that all of you, the people around you, have the same interests.
Right.
And one thing you need to keep in mind when you enter law school is that everybody next to you is extremely different from you. Specifically about law school, it's because some people here are truly exceptional. Some people will be from completely different walks of life whom you cannot relate with in any manner whatsoever. So to think that you and them would have enough similarities to form a bond similar to what she describes is, I think, a fallacy.
So I've never been to war, so I don't know what those are like.
Neither
Or the
have
bonds
I.
forged. But I had only one friend in my first year. We do not speak anymore, but I think that's for a lot of people that happened, right? Like you form good, close friendships with a couple of people, and it just falls apart, and you keep finding new people to be friends with, and it falls apart again. But
Did you
I don't
prepare
know.
these questions specifically for
No,
me?
no, these are from the article. I just extrapolated them.
Fucking
So-
Colin Cooper.
So, right. I think law school changes people for sure. When I joined law school, I was very unsure of myself, anxious, and very, very volatile and emotional. And now I found some sort of balance with my emotions. I don't let them control me.
I think
I lead a very peaceful life here. So,
I think I've had the opposite.
right.
I mean, not about the peaceful life part. That's sort of remained constant, but I was extremely sure of myself before I entered law school. I was extremely confident. I was how you think I am based on how I look right now. But coming to law school, I suppose I wanted to be more like people that I saw. I wanted to. I learned, I suppose, the the great joy that comes with needing someone
Oh, yeah.
and being vulnerable and being insecure and being anxious. We view them as weaknesses, but
I see.
I I do think now after coming to law school that they're valuable things. They're interesting experiences at the very least. Something someone should try out.
Right, yeah. Things at law school have been quite volatile, and one thing I realized is most of us we are very unsure of not only ourselves but the values we carry within us as well. So ultimately, the people that you do like to be around, even at law school or outside law school, are people whose values resonate with yours in a sort of way. And I think that, especially at our age, it takes us quite a long time to find people that we are comfortable with that in that sense. Because I'm in my fourth year, and only towards the middle of my third year did I find friends that I was comfortable, genuinely comfortable around, and people who I had real fun with. Before that, it was just I did have a lot of friends, but I don't know, there was something off deep down inside. I just felt like I didn't belong. But I suppose everyone goes through that, and it's not a big deal in the end. And we just have to keep our chins up and keep moving forward. Right. So, student culture and competition. So this article says that competition is extremely brutal at law school, and I think we can both agree that that's okay. Okay.
You would just say that.
The article says that competition exists, and it makes the case for us to be more caring and open towards each other and lift people up rather than put them down for momentary gain. So I've heard a lot of seniors who used to talk to me in my first and second year. They used to say how they were backstabbed by a couple of people at law school and how they felt horrible about it. And how they never really recovered from that. I have never gone through any such thing at law school. I've never gone through anything really, no emotional upheaval. I've had
Same. Neither have I, frankly. No, I have no idea why you're bringing that up. Neither have I.
No. So, what do you think of competition at law school? Do you think people... So, one thing I have seen at law school is that when we were in our first and second year, we used to be very stingy with notes. We would not want to share. People in our batch, they would not want to share notes openly. People were very competitive. People were quite hostile. And I think that ended once our recruitment coordination committee started getting internships out to people, and people started interning out at law firms and started getting jobs. Now I think people are a lot more warm to each other in our batch. I think he disagrees. Maybe you want to talk
No,
about
go ahead, finish it.
Yeah, so we were all very immature when we joined law school, 3 year school, but I think we've all mellowed out and become admirable people, in some sense at least.
How many people do you think share notes, Krishna, now?
I don't think people ask for notes that often, but I've seen
Oh, they sure
people,
ask.
3 or 4 people, 5, 6 people share notes quite often.
Huh? Have you
Yeah.
checked the ASP drive ever?
I don't think they share it through an institutionalized drive. So maybe you want to explain what the ASP is.
Okay, the ASP is an institutional drive.
It's
where
a Google Drive.
all of us upload notes so that everybody else can access it. It's the same few people who've been doing it, and I don't think we've matured in any significant way. We like to think that if you consider becoming colder as a person maturing, then that's a tragedy and you're frankly pathetic. But the only thing that's changed now is people are more detached than they were when they came in. That is not maturing. That's either giving up, accepting your place as someone who's just not gonna be that good, or maybe that's just you no longer caring about something which has eaten up too much of your headspace.
So I disagree with that. So when we were all maybe 2 years younger in our second year and our first year, a lot of people from this law college were people who had topped their batch in school. So they felt quite inadequate coming in. But I think that now people have found their self-worth, and not everything is academics, I feel. People have become quite warm towards me, at least. People are quite nice to me. So
People have learned to act warm. This is something coming from me, Krishna, and take it to heart because I do it better than anybody else. Just because someone acts a certain way doesn't mean they are that way. I think people have learned, they've definitely learned new skills. They've learned how to act in social surroundings. They've learned more about what
Yeah.
the behavior that's expected of them.
Right, for sure.
That doesn't mean that they are the person they act like. Again, that's a very metaphysical question about what makes you, the way you act or what you truly believe or the what you truly are. But frankly, people may believe things different from what their actions might show. My idea as to why people have not fundamentally changed and why academics still continues to drive us will perhaps best be served when you notice the fact that our note taking measures have stopped. There is no joint note taking measure anymore because people simply didn't sign up.
Right.
If you
That's
look
true,
at
though.
the evidence, there is no one uploading notes anymore on our drives. They're completely empty. After the trimester is over, everybody else writes the
Right, right.
exam, some people extend their generosity to the lower batches and upload their notes. I mean, God bless them. That's still important. If someone's writing repeats, sure, people are generous. They'll send all their notes. If someone's competing with you, how many
Right.
notes do you see then?
That's true. That's something to consider, maybe.
This place is competitive, not in the sense that there are people who will push you to do your best. There are some people like that who are good enough to genuinely take every single bit of your headspace and every bit of effort you can possibly exert to stay on the same level as them. But some people but most people here are competitive in the sense that they act competitive but do not actually pose a challenge which inspires you to compete with them.
Right. Oh, oh. Also, I don't know. I've struggled a lot at law school, so I find it now. I find the competition quite tough here. So, I don't know. I don't score as high as maybe Krishanu, so I don't agree with him completely. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of competition at law school. At least I felt that there was, because we are marked on a bell curve, right? So it's not like all of us can score good grades because we are all marked relative to each other. So there are always people who will score in the top 70%. Wait,
The,
is my statistics right?
the
Math?
top 30% is O.
Top
No,
30.
no, no, wait, no.
What's the math?
Like 3 or 4 people get O's at max.
O is
Most courses.
70% and above.
Is
Right?
70% and
Yeah.
above.
And there are also people who will score C's and C pluses. Yeah. So that's I think there is real competition at law school. I have found only a very few. There are very few people who actually push me to do better at law school. I'm lucky enough to have them as friends, so they do definitely push me to try harder. So that's something nice.
You know what's even better than friends pushing you harder?
What?
I think people you hate can push you harder to do better more. I think that's genuinely true. And I think I'm not the only one who feels this way. When there is someone you really dislike doing better than you, you'll put in every bit of effort you have to do better than them. And
Right.
I've seen this happen more. And I've seen this happen successfully more at the very least.
Yeah, maybe I've never seen it because.
Edit this part out. Cut this part out.
Toppers, right?
Cut this part out.
Sure.
So yeah. No, again, cut this part out still.
Okay, maybe we can move on then.
Yeah.
Right. We covered academics, right? We covered the bell curve. Then what else is there to cover? Yeah.
And-
Teaching
but-
yourself.
Is it possible to remove those parts from the video?
Yes, I can edit it out. Yeah.
But just include one phrase of me in the middle saying cut this part out. It'll be funny.
I'll do that. Yeah. So, figuring out who we are at law school. This is something that's in the law review that I'm reading, Letter to a Young Law Student. But it's something that I could never make sense of. I don't understand the concept of finding out who you are. I think that's a very Western concept. What do
I
you
think it's a very stupid concept. Who? Is there any fixed thing which is within you that you would define as who you are? Is it any single core concept? What are you trying to look for when you say, I'm trying to find who I am?
I
If
think
you don't
it's-
know what you're trying to look for, then It's like searching for something which you don't know. But you don't know what you're searching for, you're just in the activity of searching.
So I think this is about finding out what values you hold most dear to you, and
But those keep
how
on
you live
changing,
those out in
right?
your. No, not necessarily.
I can give you a fact. If I was to fuck someone over, then, and by exploiting one particular value they have, then they would certainly change that value later on because of what they've been through in their lives.
I think that they'll just be more cautious, not necessarily that they change the value.
They, but okay, let me rephrase that question. I think people's values are always subject to change.
Right.
Subject to change by their circumstances, subject by to change by what happens to them in their lives, subject to change by new material and new information that they come across. So
Yeah.
there is no such thing to find. You may develop yourself in law school,
Right.
sure.
Right.
A homophobic person who comes to college can be exposed to queer people and queer literature in their safe spaces and may come to accept them and change their viewpoints and
Right.
start becoming an ally. That is possible. That is developing yourself. The reason you don't find yourself is because there is no such core value which will never change.
So maybe I should change the question a little bit. So what experiences at law school defined a major part of you? What changed you a lot? And
There was. I was about to say that it's very easy that there's been one experience, but now that I think about it a bit deeper, it isn't frankly one experience.
right.
It's a culmination of how you live at law school, which will create situations and circumstances which will then impact you and change you. This can be for the better, this can be for the worse. And what defines this is the situations which you put yourself in this period. So what you do throughout will result in something, definitely, that will either change you for the better or for the worse.
Right.
And that thing which happens can either be good or bad, but it's in your control because it's defined by everything that you've done up until that point. So I think there is no such thing which law school does to you. It's what you do at law school and the consequences thereof, which certainly have the possibility of bringing in change. But if you're just like a low key person who just sits around, does nothing, stays out of drama, stays simply, just exists and passes time by, perhaps you won't have this change,
Right.
which is entirely possible, which is maybe better for people who crave peace, but then it's just boring. Just
Right.
boring, and I don't want to talk to you.
So one of the things that changed me a lot at law school was working for animal rights. So we used to work for all the dogs on this campus. We used to feed them every day. We used to give them medical treatment. So there was this one dog I remember earlier this May. This was something that really changed me recently. I took him to the vet with a couple of other people from college, and he had a growth on his spinal cord, and we had to give him laser therapy and things like that. So it was early in the
You
morning.
got a
to
dog chemo?
It's not chemo. Laser therapy is it's like
Radiation.
infrared radiation.
You got a dog radiation?
Infrared radiation.
How much did that cost?
This was about 253.
1,000.
Yeah,
They take lakhs and lakhs for doing that to humans.
that's chemotherapy. That's
No, even
chemicals.
radiation treatment.
So they took it. It looked like a big barcode scanner, and they just put it on his skin and the lasers. It was just like, I don't know,
Yeah, gone.
a big barcode scanner. We got an X-ray done and everything, and I brought him home myself. Had to carry him all the way back, and later the student community at large decided they had to put him down, and that's something I fought with 40 people with, and that was very difficult. I do not know what decision was correct or wrong in the end. I'm not going to really comment on that because it's very sensitive for everyone. But I stopped working for
I think that's a
animals.
very. You should comment on that decision. Saying it's a sensitive matter for everyone is a very cowardly way to excuse others
So
from an uncomfortable situation and yourself from an uncomfortable situation.
it's definitely an uncomfortable situation. I disagree with what was done, but I also gave up in the end because that took a huge toll on me, and it was exam season as well, so that stress was also there. So I stopped working for the animals on campus after that, and once I stopped working, I don't really know what happened. It was one of the most tumultuous times I've had at law school. The committee got disbanded after that. So then I really thought I should play to my strengths rather than play to my weaknesses, because animal rights work is something that's it's quite sensitive, and seeing living things die is not nice. So now we do legal work for animals. So that's something I've been doing since June this year, and I think that's something that law school has helped me do.
He runs the Animal Rights Advocacy Clinic, which is a very successful student run clinic, which is currently doing legal work, saving animals in Kerala, I believe, creating drafts and research for.
So we filed a petition before the Supreme Court of India against the illegal culling of stray dogs. We haven't filed it, the lawyer never filed it, but
You prepared
we're
it.
waiting for the right time to file it once the. Waiting for the right time to file it. Yeah, where's that flashcard? It's gone. Oh, right. Next is the fun bit, internships. So, how have your internship experiences been like? And we're not naming law firms. We're just going to keep it vague.
The first few internships I secured because of contacts. The first few internships I secured were through contacts I have. So certainly getting internships is not nothing difficult for me. Known plenty of lawyers my entire life. I interned and I did not honestly phone it in. I mean I know a lot of people believe in phoning it in during the initial few internships before your corporate internships start. I did not phone it in, and I don't think you should phone it in, because there's a lot of things which you're simply not taught how to do in law school. And if you don't learn how to do these things before you join a corporate law firm, you're simply fucked. You better pray to God someone takes you on day zero, and frankly, the way the market's looking, good luck with that too. But you need to learn as much as you can about how real lawyers practice, about the stuff which will be expected from you in an internship, and what you are expected and how you're expected to present research drafts, to draft articles, to review, to do anything, whatever you're working on. You need to know it to the best of your ability, because law school isn't going to teach you that. The corporate law firms are not going to teach you that. If they need to teach you, you're already out of the consideration for a PPO. It's honestly up to you, and your choice to learn as much as you can if you want to get a job. If you don't want to get a job, feel free and phone it in, and or maybe pray for day zero.
What does phone it in mean?
Phone it in means scam in law school lingo. You scam it, you don't do work, you just take the certificate.
Okay. Yeah. So, you've done litigation internship as well, right? How was that like?
I've done 5 of them, frankly.
Oh, 5. Oof.
I find litigation internships I find them annoying. I find them annoying because there's way too much work for way too little recognition, and the work you do is of little value. I wouldn't say little value. At least as interns, the work you'll be given to do is nowhere nearly as tangibly important as the work you would get at a corporate law
Right.
firm. For example, at a corporate law firm, if I'm working on a major transaction, even if your contribution is more important than you might think, even as an intern, but in litigation, the matters themselves are of a tangibly smaller scale, and your contribution individually may be greater than at a law firm, but the scale of the matter you're working on itself is so small that it doesn't satisfy me.
Right. No. So I interned at asked to cut something more out. Yeah, so litigation internships, I've done one. I didn't really enjoy it as much as I thought I would. I didn't really get, I thought, so I was at the family court, so I thought I would really get to do work which impacted the clients, but these matters are so very drawn out that there are only very key moments where you can actually contribute to something. So again, in June, I was at a corporate law firm, and in February, no, October, I was again at a corporate law firm, and I really did get to do a lot of good work there. They respected me and the work that I did as well, so that was something very fresh. I never and the best part about those internships was my batchmates were also there, and they were so exceptionally nicer outside the college than they were inside. So in
I've
college,
noticed
people
that
are
too.
always very tense inside the college, but at internships, they're much happier. They're more willing to, accommodate. They're more willing to help out. So some of the more close friendships I've formed at law school were formed at internships. Over the course of days, where I never was really that close to these people over the course of years. So that's something really great about internships that I've always liked. Um, yeah, that's pretty much it. If there's anything else, so how would you how would you advise our viewers who are afraid of law school and the insurmountable challenges that it does pose to find courage and face forward and move ahead?
Don't focus on the academics. Make sure you know what you want going in, know what kind of a college life you want, know what kind of a future you want for yourself. Work from the get go. It's difficult to make up later on. If you change your mind and decide, no, I actually want a corp job, increasing your GPA once it has fallen is a difficult task.
Great point.
There are some other things I want to say as well. Um, if you treat people kindly, just how you would treat someone, um, generally how you would meet them on the street. Don't treat them especially poorly or nicely. Don't be afraid of people. Don't do things which make people afraid of you. If you keep these things in mind, it's very easy to have a decent little time in NLS. And if you don't just want to have a decent time, if you want to have an interesting time here, there are plenty of opportunities for that as well. You plenty of things to explore, plenty of people to talk to, plenty of a very diverse range of experiences to encounter, and a vast scope in the number of things you can do. A very vast number of things which are within your grasp here. Socially, academically, maybe even in regards to the skills you decide to pick up. Take advantage of what you want to. Make yourself into the person you want to be when you're a kid. And don't change your mind halfway through. I think that's the one thing I would ask you to do the most. Be sure of what you want and follow that and that alone. If you lose sight of who you are, things will get painful.
Yeah, it's important to have a certain degree of self-respect when you are in law school, because it's a very stressful place. So people do invariably, even your closest friends might be bad to you on some days. But I think what's important is just to be tolerant of other people when they go through these things. Keep your chin up. Yes, really. And I think kindness is something that's important at law school.
I was set up.
No.
I was set up by being invited here.
No, so people really do remember when you're, supportive of them in moments that they are going through things, because law school is very brutal at times. And
I
one
don't
thing
think
that
they
is
do.
lacking at this law school is that people are not like this article says people at law school are supposed to support each other, but that's not something that happens here. But I do see that is something that happens at other law schools, like NUJs. It happens there. Nalsar, I've heard from my friends at Nalsar who say that people are nicer there, at least in the beginning. So I don't know, maybe it's just how stressful things are here, but it's important to keep your chin up. So Thank you, Krishanu, Paul, for coming here, and thank you for watching.
Thank you for having
everyone.
me.
Thank you. I have to censor a lot of